Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm doing a dual review, specifically Tiny Ninjas and Tiny Ninja Heroes. Now, normally I'd be holding up the actual boxes, except in this case, both games make use of their boxes for the gameplay, so they're currently a bit occupied, so I'm left holding these rulebooks, which is a shame because the boxes look significantly better, but we'll get to that. I will show you all of that. But let's go through the two games. Timestamps as usual down below, although this will very much break my usual format because I'm reviewing two games and the approach I'm going to take with these two. But I'm going to start off with Tiny Ninja Heroes, which is actually my less favorite of the two games. Tiny Ninja Heroes is effectively a skirmish game. It's actually the one that came after, I believe, in terms of their production timeline, or whichever one came first. But Tiny Ninja Heroes is a skirmish game which you're going to have these, fittingly enough, Tiny Ninja Heroes represented by dice, represented by these cards with good art, with great art, represented by your specific heroes that you're going to choose to complement your basic forces. There's a whole host of heroes you have. I believe there's 6 in the base game and then a bunch in the expansions as well. And you're going to choose a hero, you're going to add that hero to your basic set of standard ninjas, which all come in their own type. You see, each of the 4 standard ninjas, you'll have your master, you'll have your panda, you'll have your archer, you'll have your solo, each bringing a different degree of something to the table. Your panda is a little more defensible, your solo hero ninja jumps in and is able to do a lot of damage, your archer has a little bit more range, and your master has, well, first of all, my favorite move in the game comes from the master, which is a tornado, which deals damage all around you in a single shot. But from there, that's just what's going on in the general game. This is, like I said already, a skirmish game. You're going to set up in your pre-scripted sides of the boards and then start taking actions one at a time, alternating between the attacker and the defender, taking a turn. A turn sequence, which is beautifully laid out on this player aid card, consists of you taking your income, which means drawing an item card. You can draw an item card from this large stack of item cards, and in general, there's more cards in the expansions as well. You're going to go ahead and then advance your energy, little magnetized little discs over there. You'll advance your energy by 1. Then you'll move. You'll have 3 movement points to distribute amongst your characters. Then you'll take actions, and movement will be wandering around the board, doing what you need to do. Then you have 3 actions you can take. Actions involve things like trading in cards for energy, using energy for various actions, using various items, activating support abilities of characters, things like that. So for instance, Solo can pop over, swapping places with another, I probably shouldn't have knocked that over, swapping places with another character on the board. Solo can just pop over there, saving you a whole bunch of movement points as you try to figure out what you're doing over there. This is set up incorrectly. There we go. And then from there, you're going to go ahead and take an attack action. You're going to activate an attack action on one of your characters, and then finally the opposing player has a chance to defend from the attack you just had. You're going to go back and forth until one player wins. Once again, you're going to have a bit of an income phase. You can move around the board. You're going to take some actions. You're going to attack. The other player may or may not defend, depending on what abilities they have. And then you're going to rinse and repeat until the player wins the game. So you do have moments where you'll have a particularly cool turn. Like, let's pretend Red's going to go over here. And they go ahead, and they're going to go ahead and play this card over here, which is a very cool card, where they're going to pay 4 energy to add 2 damage to your next attack. They're going to pip their energy down to 1. Then they're going to go ahead and add 2 more of these cards, going 1 energy, 1 energy. And they'll bump their energy up 2 more, so they have 3, which is a very cool turn I'm prepping for. Give me a second here. They're going to go ahead and move 3, so they're going to go ahead and go 1, 2. I think I had it wrong over there, but let's say they're going to go 1, 2 over there to this slot in there. And then they're going to activate their tornado, which costs 3, dealing 1 damage in all directions, but they just buffed it by 2, which means they're going to deal 3 damage in all directions, killing, and lowering the panda character down to 2 health. That is an epically cool turn that has never actually happened to me. I specifically crafted a particularly cool turn just for the sake of this, but in general, you're going to use a combination of item cards, of your abilities, of your characters, and trying to combine them all in a way that best complements what you're trying to do as you try to figure out how to win. You're going to go back and forth, like I said already, until one player wins the game, and that is Tiny Ninja Heroes. So, let's cover my opinions, my thoughts on this one. And in general, speaking frankly, I didn't love this particular one. While the art is absolutely phenomenal, while the table space, the box size, the components they fit in is all amazing, and while they do have cool moves like I just showed you, generally they're not that cool. Generally, this is going to be a skirmish game where you wander back and forth. There's some other elements we didn't cover, like things like, the shields and stuff like that. I'm not getting into every little detail, but you're going to go back and forth dealing damage to each other. But I find most of the things in this game aren't that interesting. Most of the abilities in this game aren't that interesting. Most of them come down to rolling a die, dealing 1 or 2 damage, and rinse and repeat going back and forth as you go. The tactical grid doesn't give you that much reason or room to actually navigate around. Now, again, there are cool moments. Do not make me think that. Do not let my words make you think that there's no cool moments in the game, but I would say most turns are fairly boring. There's that occasional turn where you swap spaces with your solo character and you pop your master straight into battle and boom, tornado. And there's that action I just took over there where you spend a couple energy, you get a cool action and boom, tornado. In fact, I would say most of my cool turns in this game usually ended in the words boom, tornado. Now you do have your heroes. Your heroes do give you an extra little spin or twist, something different to mix it up game to game. But again, they weren't that interesting in my opinion. They generally had small variations of a different way to roll dice. And one thing this game has, and this game has the concept that you roll a dice, and depending on the card you activated, you're either looking for the number of daggers rolled, the color, black or white, or alternatively, the color around the edge over there, that orange, purple, or green. So each dice effectively has 3 different measurements on each side, leading to a clever way of utilizing, well, the abilities and just having things use the same die, which to me just felt like an unnecessary amount of work and cleverness for no real return. You could just have a different die system. It doesn't need to be this clever system of, look how we can use one die in 3 different ways. I feel like they're trying to fit that into the game, as opposed to that being actually helpful to the game, and it ends up being just a little bit confusing. Especially, I've played this both with kids and adults, and especially when playing it with children, I have found that they always are focusing on the daggers over there as opposed to any other indicator, to the point that at times I just let them focus on that instead. But again, you can go back and forth, you'll do your abilities, it's fine, it does the job, but I feel that the complexity to depth ratio was not ideal in this game. There's a lot of rule text, a lot of little symbology, a lot of small things, mostly for the sake of going back and forth, rolling a die, doing some damage, rinse and repeat, the occasional cool turn to spice things up. But even the heroes, like even your hero that is particularly cool, I haven't cared that much about one hero versus another. I haven't felt one hero is particularly cool or particularly adds to my strategy in any nuanced way. It is fine, but that's where it ends. As far as rating on this one is a 2.5 out of 5. There are elements of the game that I enjoyed for myself, but for the most part, it's not one I'm eager to dive back into. I just didn't feel there was enough game in the table space going on. Again, it's about complexity to depth ratio. A lot of things to go on. Now, it is worth noting that there is also a zombie apocalypse mode, where you can go ahead and dive solo into just taking on a horde of zombie characters. You'll play as the blue ninjas, the red ninjas will be slowly crowding in, you rinse and repeat until eventually you, well, die. And then you add up your points, how many points you got for killing the various zombies, things like that, and just try to beat your own score. It's okay, but as far as solo modes go, I tend to not be a fan of beat your own score solo modes. I like actual objectives that I can win, not just slow, inevitable death. That's what we have life for, but it was fine. Lastly, I'll note there are additionally a whole bunch of other play modes that you have. I haven't dove into any other play modes past the basic gameplay and the zombie apocalypse. And with that, let's go ahead and put this off to the side, although I should show you that cool box because the box art is nice, and then we'll go into the second game. So, over here, let's once more just show you this box. We have Tiny Ninja Heroes. And with that, let's move to the next game. The next game on the table is going to be, well, Tiny Ninjas. Pure and simple, Tiny Ninjas. This one is going to be much more of a direct head-to-head competition. I'm actually going to orient this so you can see all the characters in this little setup. This box just opens, you slide these things in, you prop it up, and you're good to go. Now this one is far more abstracted, but I think it actually works far better in that sense. You're going to have your deck of cards over here. Players are going to be drawing cards and then going back and forth head-to-head in a less tactical arena combat, but still a tactical combat, and one that I vastly preferred over Tiny Ninja Heroes. So you're going to have each player drawing up a hand of cards. Each player is going to have a hand of cards, and then they're going to take turns being the attacker and the defender. Not that different in Tiny Ninja Heroes, although this one is, well, I covered already, better. Tiny Ninjas is going to involve you taking turns as the attacker or defender, and you're going to play a card to attack against the other opponent. To attack your opponent. You're going to play a card, you're going to do the action or event on that card, wherever it is. So maybe I go ahead and I do this one, and I'll go ahead and deal some form of damage to my opponent. Now, there are dice in this as well, same basic idea, although they divide it up into 2 dice this time, but you can roll the dice depending on which card you utilize. You're going to look at what type of activation it has, whether it's rolling. This one example over here is going to have you rolling to see if you roll blue, white, or black, and it'll do that respective amount of damage. This is white, so it's going to deal 1 damage with that attack over there. So you're going to be doing, and you can see over here the damage is going to be a 1 or 2 damage attack, and your opponent has a chance to defend, to respond to that. So effectively your turn involves playing a card and trying to do a variable amount of damage to your opponent. Your opponent now over here has to look at their hand of cards, and they'll go ahead and say, hey, you know, I have a blue defensive shield that's not going to help me because you can't use a blue defense against a red attack. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and use a red defense against a red attack, and that's going to be just direct 1 damage whenever you have a situation. There's going to be 3 types of things. There's going to be rolling dice, and then, well, 2 types of things. Rolling dice, and then just direct damage or defense, and this is going to directly defend against 1 attack, reducing your health value by 1. Then the attacker has a chance to go again or stop, and this is where the real fun of the game comes in, because you can keep going again or stopping at your leisure. The problem is, I'll go ahead and attack again, I'll go ahead and attack again, I'll get a whole bunch of damage in, I have 1 card left. At the end of my turn, your opponent consistently has a chance to defend against your attacks. So every time I play a card, they can react, they can defend, mitigating what I've actually done to them. The problem is, they go ahead and play a whole bunch of cards to defend, and when your turn is done as the attacker, your opponent draws back up to 5, you do not. Which means you can keep attacking all you want, but if you're not careful, they now have a hand of 5 cards, and they can take a whole bunch of attacks, wiping you off the floor. This game has an interesting back and forth as you try to figure out which cards you have, which are better for attack versus defense, how you make sure you have a good division of the colors so you can go ahead and divide and defend against the red attacks, but also not pushing too much at once. You push too far, and you might not kill your opponent, but then they are going to wipe you out, completely wipe you out. If you walk into a turn with you having no cards in hand, they're going to deal a lot of damage. It's not something you can easily come back from. So this game has a lot more tactics, in my opinion, around the way the cards come out, the types of cards you're going to hold on to, the types of cards you're going to attack with, how you balance all that, and then ultimately my favorite part, in terms of when you decide to keep pushing versus when you decide to stop and just, well, deal with the fact that your opponent's drawing a full hand of cards, and hopefully your 3 cards that you left in your hand is enough to stop against them. Although again, as soon as it goes to their turn, they have the same dichotomy. They can keep pushing, or they can try to hold on a little defensively. So it has that nice little push and pull. As far as general thoughts and opinions, I covered it as I was teaching to a large degree, but for the most part, this game has a lot more interesting decisions around what's going on. It's still a lighter game, to be very fair, but I would say the complexity to depth ratio on Tiny Ninjas is significantly better, making it a much more enjoyable experience. This game is easier to learn, and in my opinion has more strategy and choice around it. The part I still don't like is I still don't love that rolling of the dice here, but I actually find that, I mean, it's not that I don't mind rolling dice. I have no problem with rolling dice for a variable amount of damage. I like that aspect. That aspect leads to a bit of a decision space around, do I try to go for that 1 to 2, or do I maybe I play that 0 to 6 over here, and that could be a big deal as far as what I actually get done. And so much higher range, but much higher range for nothing happening, or for dealing 6 damage at once. So I don't mind rolling dice. I like that. I just don't love their system. Same exact issue. I just find the system is overly complicated for what you're actually getting out of it. It's fine. I just don't feel the need for that extra, here's 3 different ways we can track. We can track by color, we can track by color, we can track by the count of symbols over here. It just doesn't do much for me. So the dice system, I still have a problem with. The rest of the game I found to be much more rewarding as you try to make choices around how to attack, how to move forward, how to defend, which cards to hold on to, and having that spread. I'm mostly repeating what I said, doing what I taught, because that's how I feel about the game. It's about those small little choices as you try to figure it out. And I find there's a lot more tension in this one. In Tiny Ninja Heroes, I find the tension as you approach the end game just gets less and less tense as the map slowly clears. In this game, I find the tension as you try to see if I can just get one more hit, reducing you from 2 health down to nothing, whatever it is, versus the fact that you might be able to defend and hold on, and now you'll be able to kill me. I find the sudden death aspect of Tiny Ninjas to be much more prevalent, because when you get people down to the final health, you do have that tough aspect of, I'm going to play another card. But if I don't break through, if you have the right defense, if you roll better than I do, or something like that happens, then you're going to be able to kill me. And so it has that final death moment a lot more impactful. The end game ramps up as opposed to the end game ramping down. As far as final thoughts and review in Tiny Ninjas, it's still a lighter game, to be very fair. To be very clear, it's still a lighter game. It's still a game in which you're going to be playing cards, rolling dice, and doing what you need. There's going to be luck in what you roll. There's going to be luck in what you draw and how you play out. But there's a lot more going on that makes it worthwhile. Overall, this one I'm still giving a 3 out of 5. Well, not still. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it a lot more while still being a game that I'm not rushing to play, but I'm very happy to play this one when anyone asks me to play it with me. That is basically it. We have 2 games. Let me go ahead and close up this box situation over here, show you how this works. We can go ahead and dump those in, take these 2 out. These will go into the box like so, and that will give me the opportunity to pull these out, close the box, and show you the two games. Once again, we have Tiny Ninjas, a solid, accessible, fun little game of push and pull, and Tiny Ninja Heroes, a game that added a lot more complexity but not a lot more depth and was less a fit for me. And in any case, I hope you found this helpful. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and have a good one.